Hello, my name is Michael Pinto, and I am a IPLI Indiana Principal Leadership Institute um, mentor, and I am presenting to you today a presentation called Why Not? This presentation is geared for you as principals and you as teacher leaders to think about your next steps as the IPLI journey is coming to an end. You are at year two, you're at the end of your journey, and you need to ask yourself, what's next? And then why not? Why not accomplish this? Why not take this risk? Why not take this jump? Why not try? So this presentation hopefully will focus that attention. When we think about impact, we need to think about risk because there is a risk that comes with all impact making. And so you need to ask yourself, can you make an impact on your teaching craft if you are a teacher leader or your leadership by taking a risk? How about the relationships you have with your family, your professional colleagues, your school community, your students? How about each student in your class or each student in your school, or the quality of the present experience? And that really comes down to what it's like to be a student in your classroom or a student in your school. And for principals, what about what it's like to be a staff member and to be a teacher and to be a parent of someone in your school? How about yourself? Can you make an impact on yourself by taking a risk? How about your spouse and your family? What about your career? Think about those pieces and ask yourself, why not? Why not take a risk? All right, are we willing to ask ourselves why not? Let's hope so. Before we get started, a couple of reminders. It's very important that we go slowly. Slow down. You are at a point in year two of IPLI where you have been exposed to 2 years of amazing professional development. It is amazing. It is wonderful. You have seen speakers that are absolutely well renowned. They have given you tons of information. You have shared and been exposed to schools around the state that are doing wonderful things. And there's a tendency right now to want to do everything now. Slow down. Do you hear me? Nod your head if you hear me. Because you have to slow down or it's not going to work. You also have to remember this is not a race. And I know we are all competitive with ourselves. We're competitive with our schools. We want to be the best school. We want to be the best teacher. But what happens when you run a race is you have to run your best race. Because if you don't run your best race, it doesn't matter what the person next to you is doing. You're not going to have your personal best times. So remember, it's not about what the person down the road is doing. It's what is needed for your school or your classroom right now. The other thing that happens right now in our year two is we have been exposed to so many things. You hear amazing speakers who talk about everything that could be. You hear from your regional focus cohort groups. You go to different schools and see things hung on walls and experiences and facilities, and you say, oh my gosh, I've got to do all that. What happens is that's what I call the bright, shiny object syndrome. Like a fish, it's easy to get enamored by the bright, shiny object. And social media plays a huge role in that. We have seen, and I know I see it all the time, people who do really great things that look amazing for a minute or a soundbite or a video clip, but aren't sustainable. They aren't necessarily good for kids. They're not necessarily good for instruction. They're not necessarily long term. And they may just be loud and look at me, and they may not have impact. So be very careful of the bright, shiny objects because there are things out there that look really good and you want to do them. And doing them just to do them without any content or any backing or any collaboration, really they just become wallpaper hanging on the wall. So be cautious of that. You have a sandwich in front of you, and the sandwich is a delicious sandwich. It looks good. It's amazing. When you attack a sandwich, you don't put the whole thing in your mouth at once. You don't do it. And so you have to say to yourself, I'm at the point where I'm looking at what's next, and I'm saying to myself, why not try this or why not do this? But you also have to say, I've got to take this one bite at a time. So Cory Booker says we often let things feel so big that we allow our inability to do everything to undermine our ability to do something. So we look at this and say, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do and so far to go, I can't do it. No. What's the first bite? What is the first bite of your sandwich? What's it going to look like? Where's it going to be? And then where's the second bite? And then where's the third bite? And that's what we're going to talk about during this Why Not presentation. Is the time right? Timing is so very important. Don't just do something to do something. Is the time right? Do you have the right people in place? You may have some really good ideas that you may need to put in your back pocket for a year or two because you don't have the right people in place yet. You don't have the right circumstances. You may have too many other things going on. You may have all these great things you want to get done, but you're in the midst of doing some huge curricular piece as a corporation, or you have a huge building project and you realize one more thing is got to put people over the top, or it gets done, but it gets done poorly, it gets done without any ownership, and it gets done with any lasting impact. So is the time right when you ask yourself, why not? And then I'm going to challenge you as well to experiment with your own mind. Try journaling, try writing things down, try looking at yourself and saying, who am I grateful for, and telling them that. But mixing it up, because you have to allow yourself a chance to grow as well. You have to push yourself. You can't do the same year 30 years in a row. It doesn't work. You can't teach that way. You can't lead that way. So push yourself. When you finish something, for example, in our world, when we finish, let's say, registration, I will say to my secretary, what do we need to change? What do we need to keep the same? What worked? What didn't work? And we change it right then because it's fresh in our minds. I do the same with most other things as well. What worked? What didn't work? And a lot of times, if it's a matter of timing, I'll say to my teachers, hey, is this a good time to do it? And if it is, we put on the calendar for the following year right then because we made a decision, it was in real time, and it made sense. So think about that. Challenge yourself. For true success, ask yourself these 4 questions. Why? Why not? Why not me? And why not now? Let's ask ourselves some why nots. Before we do, however, you're going to have an opportunity as teacher leaders and the building leader to get up in front of individuals and share a why not moment. Why not change the curriculum? Why not implement, um, you know, different curriculum? Why not um, take this next step? And inevitably, you're going to hear at least one person say, "Yeah, but." There's always a "yeah, but." Always. There's always one or two. Yeah, but that won't work for the kids who are poor. Yeah, but that won't work for these kids because their parents won't do it with them. Yeah, but that won't work for our special ed kids. Yeah, but that won't work for our grade level. Yeah, but that won't work for our content area because we do this other thing instead. You're going to hear yeah buts. Remember that. Don't let them slow you down, but prepare for them because they're going to happen. The other thing that you need to do as teacher leaders and also building leaders is ask yourself who's next. So, right now, I would like you to think about in your building, if you're the leader, you have 2 teacher leaders you've brought with you. Who's next? Who are the next 1, 2, or 3 individuals you could tap to be a teacher leader, to take this initiative, take the next initiative, and move forward? It can't be just those 2 same people you've had with you. Teacher leaders, who around you is ready to take some of this leadership piece so it's not just you? and not just the building administrators. So I want you right now to write down a couple names. Write them down. Who's next? And then what I want you to do is, as a group of teacher leaders and leaders of a building, share those and see who's the next people you can get on board. Because that's what happens when you build momentum. You ask yourself, who's next? Okay, we're going to have a post-it note activity. We're going to do some things with post-it notes. So get some post-it notes. You need a pen or pencil. And you're going to write ideas down, and you're going to write individual ideas on individual post-it notes. So one idea, one post-it note, and we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so you have in front of you a piece of paper that says visioning for personal action and visioning for school action. It's divided into this year, next year, and in the future. What I want you to do right now is think about yourself and think about, what do you hope to accomplish yet this year in your personal life? What is your near future why not moment? One or two post-it notes with one item on each. What do you want to get done right now? Think about it as a mini AR project. Do the same thing for next year. One or two post-it notes for your personal life. What do you want to get done? Maybe you want to exercise more. Maybe you want to read more books. Maybe you want to implement something in that you've never done before. Maybe you want to make a cherry pie or an apple pie. Maybe you want to visit something and go somewhere. And then what's your future why not? What about your personal life, your personal person do you want to have in the near future? Let's think out 2, 3, 4 years. What's your future why not moment? We're going to do the same thing now for our school. And what I'd like the teacher leaders to do and the building principals to do is, I'd like you to do this separately, and then we'll do it together. So when you look at that in your school for the rest of the school year, what is one thing that you think you can get done? Next year, 2 different post-it notes or 3. What are 2 or 3 or one thing you want to get done next year that will help the school become better? And then shoot high. If you had the all the resources in the world and the best people and individuals lined up and all the stars were aligned, what would your pie in the sky moment be? What would your why not moments be for the future? And put those down on individual post-it notes under future. And then what I want you to do is, once you've done that, I want you to then come together, principal with teacher leaders, and I want you to look at your school visioning and say, what's our this year why not moment? What's our next year why not moments? You're going to be surprised. You're going to be more on the same page than you think you are. And then principals, make a master of this, fold it up, put it away in your drawer under school improvement, and say, okay, this, when we get out your school improvement document for next year, all right, we're going to get these 2 things done. The beauty of the post-it notes is sometimes things pop up and you don't get there. Move the post-it note. And then the year after, get it out and say, oh my goodness. What happens, it happens to me all the time, is you go to these great professional development, you see great things, and 2 days later, you're saying, what was that thing? Or a month later, by writing it down, by putting it on post-it notes, you are allowing yourself an opportunity to go back and to revisit it. There's a great book called What Do You Do with a Chance? And it's written by Kobe Yamada. And there's a quote in there that I really like. It says, chances are invitations to grand adventures, tickets to unforgettable experiences, and doors to whole new worlds. Chances help you see who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. What do you do with a chance? Now that's up to you. And again, make sure that you look at that from a chance perspective. We have the 5 levels of Barzana that we've spoken about with our wonderful guest speakers. Here are amazing examples of different things you can implement in your why not. Use this as a guide when you create your why not moments. For example, it might be the time is right for you to do instructional rounds next year. Put a post-it note on it under next year. Maybe you did it, maybe you're doing them right now, you're going to finish them and make them better. But next year, it's time for you to look at priority standards. Write it down. You may still be back saying, we've got to get our hands on PLCs. And that's where our next year why not moment is. That's okay. That's up to you. I would leave you with this take. And that take is you are going to do the best you can with what you have where you are. And what happens is you have to say to yourself, I'm going to try. I'm going to take a risk. You're going to fail. That's okay. Give yourself the grace, give yourself permission to try and to fail, but always shoot high, always shoot for the moon,